Welcome to Translation Compass, the Localization podcast.
The Localization podcast brought to you by Legenda, the online translation agency.
Today we're going deep on multimedia localization projects. What should you really think about when planning one?
That's a great topic.
Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing, how much video and multimedia content there is these days.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. The number of digital video viewers just keeps going up and up.
And it's only going to keep growing.
Exactly. Video marketing, the whole streaming scene, it's all evolving so fast.
And the video game industry in Europe is having a moment.
Huge moment. A boom, even.
Right. Which brings us back to why multimedia localization is so crucial.
It is. Because ultimately, you want to connect with audiences all over the world.
Absolutely. In a way that feels natural to them, in their own language and taking their culture into account.
It's all about making sure your message truly resonates.
It is. That powerful combination of visuals and sound, speaking directly to your audience in a language they understand, well, that can make all the difference.
Especially online.
Oh, definitely online. It can open up new markets and help you build stronger connections.
So let's say you want to take your video content global. Where do you even begin? What are the big questions you need to ask yourself?
The first thing is to get crystal clear on your goals. What are you hoping to achieve with this multimedia content?
Right.
Are you trying to boost your brand awareness in a new region? Drive sales for a specific product? Or maybe provide customer support in different languages?
All valid objectives.
They are, but just as important is knowing your target audience.
Because one size doesn't fit all.
Exactly. You need to understand their cultural background, what devices they use to watch videos, where they hang out online.
I guess even things like, do they prefer subtitles or dubbing?
Yeah, that can vary a lot from culture to culture.
And then thinking about the platforms where you'll be posting your content.
Because they might have different technical requirements or best practices for localized multimedia.
That all makes sense. You need to know why you're doing it and who you're doing it for. That's going to shape the whole process. But once you have those answers, what are the actual steps to localize a multimedia project?
Well, every project is different. It depends on what kind of multimedia you're working with and your goals, but there are some common stages you're likely to encounter.
Okay, lay them on me.
Often, the first step is to transcribe the original audio.
So that's just creating a written text version of everything that's spoken.
Exactly. And a good transcription for localization purposes often includes time codes.
What are those?
Time codes are essentially timestamps that tell you exactly when each part of the speech starts and ends. They're super helpful for both subtitling and voiceover work.
Because timing is everything.
It is. They tell you when each subtitle should appear and disappear on the screen.
And for voiceover.
They're crucial synchronization points for the voice actors.
So do you get these transcriptions done manually, or is there some sort of technology for that?
You can actually do both. Automated tools have gotten much better, but manual transcription by a human linguist is often more accurate.
Especially if the audio is complex.
Right. Or if there are multiple speakers.
That makes sense.
So once you have your time-coded transcript, it's time for translation.
Which, you said earlier, can be done differently depending on whether it's for voiceover or subtitle.
Precisely. When you're translating for subtitles, you often have to be concise. You might have to summarize the original speech because you're working with limited space on the screen and the viewer's reading speed.
Yeah, a fast-paced dialogue, you can't always fit a word-for-word translation in there.
Exactly. But if you're translating for full lip-sync voiceover, also known as dubbing, it gets trickier.
Dubbing, yeah.
Yeah.
I always wondered how they do that.
Well, not only do the translated words have to be accurate, they also need to sync with the original speaker's mouth movements.
Wow, that's hard.
It is. The translator needs to understand phonetics, the sounds of language, and be able to creatively restructure sentences to make it all work visually.
So, like, if a word in one language has more syllables than its translation, you'd have to find a way to rephrase the whole sentence.
You got it. It's a real art form. And don't forget about any on-screen text, things like titles, lower thirds, graphics. Those need to be translated and integrated back into the localized version.
They do, and it has to look seamless.
Yeah.
So we've talked about subtitling, which we see all the time, but you mentioned there are different types.
There are closed captions and open captions.
What's the difference?
The main difference is control. Closed captions give the viewer control. They can choose to turn them on or off. It's the common choice on streaming platforms. Open captions, on the other hand, are permanently embedded in the video. The viewer can't turn them off. You might choose open captions if you're showing a video at a conference or on a social media platform where videos autoplay with the sound off.
So the message is always there.
Got it.
Let's talk about voiceover now.
Yeah.
You mentioned different styles of voiceover.
I did. Voiceover is a pretty versatile technique. It's basically recording a new voice track in the target language. You can either layer it over the original audio, replace it completely, or kind of blend the two.
Okay, so what are the different styles?
Well, we've already touched on full lip sync dubbing, which aims to perfectly match the translated audio to the speaker's lip movements, but there's also narration style voiceover.
Where the original audio is completely replaced.
Exactly, you only hear the new voice track. And
Mhm.
then there's UN style voiceover. In this style, the original audio is lowered in volume and the translated voice is laid over it, so you can still faintly hear the original speech in the background. This style is often used for documentaries or interviews.
It keeps the original flavor, so to speak.
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to choosing voices, it's not just about finding any voice, is it?
Absolutely not. You need the right voice for your content and your target audience.
Like a soothing voice for a nature documentary or a high-energy voice for a video game trailer.
Perfect examples. You also need to consider whether a male or female voice is more appropriate. What age range? The tone and style, too. Do you need a formal, authoritative voice? Something casual and friendly, energetic and dramatic? These are all important decisions.
And these days, you have the choice between human voice actors and AI-generated voices.
That's right. Human voices offer nuance, emotion, a natural flow, but they're more expensive and take longer.
AI is quicker and cheaper.
It can be, but it might not have the same emotional depth as a human voice, so it really depends on your budget and the type of content you're producing.
Now, one thing that might not be so obvious is the legal side of voiceovers. You mentioned usage and commercial rights.
Right. You need to be aware of those. When you commission a voiceover, the agreement should clearly state how and where that recording can be used legally.
What if I want to use it in a paid advertisement on YouTube or Facebook?
Well, the fees for those usage rights will generally be higher than if you're using the voiceover for internal communications or private presentations.
So you really need to plan ahead and make sure you're covered for all the ways you might want to use your localized content.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you could run into legal issues or unexpected costs down the line.
So it seems like multimedia localization is a multi-stage process. It must take a while to get it all done.
It does. It's not a quick turnaround. You have transcription, then translation, then the adaptation process, whether that's subtitling or voiceover. And they all depend on each other. You can't really rush it without sacrificing quality.
So you need to allow enough time for each step.
Precisely. And good project management is essential. Lip sync dubbing, with its focus on visual and linguistic alignment, naturally takes longer than a simple narration-style voiceover or subtitling.
To sum it all up, when planning a multimedia localization project, you really need to know what you're trying to achieve, who you're trying to reach, and how they consume content. And then you need to carefully select the right adaptation method, keeping in mind things like voice selection, usage rights, and the overall project timeline.
That's an excellent summary. By considering all of these factors, you'll be well equipped to create high-quality, localized content and connect with your global audience effectively.
And on that note, here's a thought for you to ponder. In this increasingly globalized world of content, could taking a strategic and thoughtful approach to multimedia localization give you a competitive edge? Will it show your audience that you understand and value them, making them more likely to choose you?
That's something for everyone to think about.
Thanks for listening to the Translation Compass podcast.
The Localization Podcast, brought to you by Legenda, the online translation agency.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, happy localizing.